I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome to AfterBuzz TV, home of the official after show for the Netflix original series, Sweet Magnolias. This is the place you're going to want to be after every show that you watch, so you can join the discussion and get insight from cast and crew and have a conversation you're not able to have anywhere else. I'm your host, Jamie Alexander, and I have an incredible panel with me. Tammy, Kelsey, and Bryant are here. And as promised, we have special guests. Yes, we wouldn't leave you without the special guests. So before we get into that, we're talking about season 1, episode 8, What Fools Mortals Be. And we've got, you might know her as the very pregnant Noreen. Jamie Lynn Spears is up in here.
Hey.
Yes, and we have Kyle Townsend, better known in real life as Logan Allen. How's everyone?
How's it going? I'm doing great.
So great.
Great. I absolutely love it. So since we're talking episode 8, we have a couple of topics that we need to get into. First topic, here I am. Kyle is being seen in this episode by his dad in the play, Noreen and Annie. We'll talk about that. And the second topic is, that's dedicated to Noreen. The car versus the car scene. He's going to work instead of the play. Yeah, that's the name of it. Just no.
I love it.
And our third topic is better together. We've got Cal and Maddie, Ryan and Helen, and Dana, Sue, and Annie kind of continuing to move their relationships on. So let's dive into this conversation, you guys.
Yes.
So this was a really big episode for both of you guys here, Jamie and Logan, and that's why we're really glad to talk to you. So I'm going to throw it to my panel because we are going to talk about, Bryant, what was it that you got from Kyle in this episode? Because we've seen him, we're getting flavors of how he is and how he maneuvers and what he's excited about. But tell me how you felt about his character in this episode particularly.
Oh my gosh, I loved Kyle's episode because, like you said, being seen is so important, especially for someone, going through that time in his life of like that high school introduction to high school, dealing with those teenage years and struggling to be seen by everybody is such an added struggle to what he's already going through in school and in life. So I loved how he was finally seen by so many people in this episode, so many people who care so much about. And to, Bill, honestly, Bill, just get it together, Bill. But I love this episode for Kyle because he was seen and he was heard, and I loved it for him.
Absolutely. Now, Kyle, I'm calling you Kyle because Logan. Let's talk about that briefly. You know what your journey has been as a character as Kyle up until now. How are you feeling about what we're getting to see from Kyle, particularly in this episode?
I think this is really big. I think, like you guys stated, you're really starting to figure out more about Kyle. He's really starting to come out a little bit more, and throughout this episode, there's a big event coming up and he's trying to get everybody gathered, you know what I mean? Is trying to invite everybody. So, he interacts with a lot of different characters and there's a lot of relationships in there that I know a lot of people have been waiting, to see, and you guys are definitely going to see that in this episode. It's so good. I think Kyle, you really get to see his true self in this one, and him just being the down to earth, nice guy he is.
Yes, I love that. And we're going to dive into that so much more, but talking about seeing your true self, Kelsey, what were you thinking about Noreen's character in this episode 8?
I was so here for it. Jamie Lynn, you play this character so well, and we've said it from the beginning. It's like you're supposed to, society has put it in our heads that you're supposed to dislike Noreen. I can't say Noreen. Noreen, but that you're supposed to dislike her as a character and like just everything she embodies. She's the mistress, she's this and that, but you play this part so well. You feel badly for Noreen. And you feel for her and you feel for everything she's going through. She's lonely. She's hurting herself. And you bring this sort of like vulnerability to her. That's so special and so amazing. So finally, when she took back her power in this episode, I was like, that is my girl.
Me too.
Oh. Well done.
Yes, Jamie Lynn, how did you feel about this character? I mean, of course, episodes 1 through 7 had their own vibe, but here we see Noreen really show up in episode 8. How do you feel playing the character Noreen and how she showed up in episode 8?
Well, I will say, like, throughout, even up to episode 8, I think that they wrote the character really well as far as allowing her to not. I was able to make her likable in a way because they did write it. They left room for that, and so I think up until now she's been trying to really keep the peace and make the best. She knows that she put herself in this situation. She knows it's not, it was not the ideal way to bring a child in to start a family in general. So I don't think that, she's at all she still needs to be held accountable for her actions, but she's tried so hard to kind of just be positive and make it right. But she's realizing now, like, I have to stand up for myself because this isn't, no matter if I did something wrong, it doesn't mean I should punish myself and create a bad future for my baby just because of decisions I've made in the past. So I think that as she's realizing the bigger picture of bringing a child into this world, that she wants to be sure she's bringing it into the world in a way that is going to be, it's going to be filled with love, even if that isn't with the father of the child.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And that's a really powerful decision to make, whether you're playing a character or it's reflective in real life. So I love how you spoke to that. And we had a chance to speak with Norman Buckley and Cheryl Anderson, and they too spoke to your vulnerability and the beauty and special layers that you brought to this character that made it really likable. They're so proud of you and just had really positive things to say.
They're so amazing. They took a chance on me and allowed me to play this character. And honestly, they've given me the biggest blessing by allowing me to, get back into doing what I love, but especially with this character, it was perfect. I felt like I connected to her in a lot of ways. I mean, she is a young girl in a small town with a pregnancy that has happened in not the ideal way. And she's not trying to say that her decisions are okay, but I think that what she's trying to do is move forward and make the best of it. And, I lived a similar path where the whole world was watching me make decisions that probably weren't the best ones all the time, but I was just trying to figure it out and do the best I could and put one foot in front of the other. And I think Noreen, to her whole world is serenity. So I really connected to feeling the judgment and trying to just do what you can and be the best person you can and moving past your mistakes, owning them, of course, because I think everyone has to be held accountable, but having compassion for other people because we don't always know the intent of people's decisions and their actions. And I think it's really important to think about where someone may be coming from and their intentions more so than their actions. And I think that was important for me, is to show that even the bad guys have a heart sometimes.
Gosh, that was so well said. There's like no need for me to even touch that. That was perfect. So, Tammy, I'll have you weigh in on this, but we kind of open this up to a kind of heartbreaking moment where we have Bill and Maddie kind of arguing over this co-parenting, which I completely understand the argument, but this is where we kind of really understand that Kyle does not feel seen by his father at all. Like, I'm gonna walk into this room. He's not even gonna see me. Don't even worry about it. How did you receive that information and feel about that scene?
I think this was really the first time that I'd seen Kyle in a frustrated, like he was frustrated, because I think up until most of the time, Kyle is kind of the voice of reason for everybody. I mean, like Ty flies off the handle, or Kyle's always been the stabling force. And we're just starting to see, like, he's got issues with his dad. He's got serious issues with his dad. So yeah, it was surprising, but I loved it. I loved, like, yeah. You are seen. You are.
We see you.
We see you.
Noreen sees you.
So yeah, Logan, how did you feel? I mean, how were you able to get there as a character, and what was maybe some of the substitutions or parallel that you maybe used in order to really paint the picture of this kid who's there and available, and Tammy, like you said, kind of a voice of reason, but also experiencing his own pain also?
Definitely. I definitely did a lot of research myself. I talked a lot with Cheryl and the writers, and the directors. And I mean, I really went really in depth with this because I think this is a really, it's something that a lot of people go through. You know what I mean? It's a very common thing. So I think, especially that scene, with Bill, right? And me with that one line saying, he won't even see me. I think that is something that it's a very special line. And even though it's just a quick little one line, there's a really big, deep meaning in it. And so, yeah, I did a lot of research on it. I talked with, some family and friends, and like I said, the writers, and because like I said, it's a very important line, not just for my character, but for the whole Bill and Kyle relationship. So I definitely took that a lot into consideration there, and it was just a really fun scene to do because I absolutely love the whole Bill and Kyle relationship. I think it's a really fun one. So like I said, I really enjoyed that scene, and I definitely put deep into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you did an amazing job. And, there were a lot of super poignant moments. Like you said, even though it was only one line, it was still very full and it spoke to like the other 7 episodes. Like it spoke to a lot of the overarching story of Kyle and his dad's relationship. So it was big and it was powerful. And it also gave Ty some insight. Like, dude, are you so wrapped up in your baseball and your car and blah, 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 that you can't even see that I'm neglected?
Yeah.
I like that line. That line is perfect. That you like being doted on. I mean, you have no problem with it. And I was like, especially too, it's like Logan, and I'm not sure if you're the oldest sibling or only sibling, but like being that middle child, I often feel like, people or the middle child feels like they're forgotten or overlooked. And I think you played that so perfectly. Like they seem like they're the ones that are really, they have it all together. And it's like, hi, yeah, I'm still a teen and hurting too and going through my own stuff, but no one asks, no one cares. So
hey, believe it or not, I'm a middle child myself. So that was pretty easy.
There you go.
Yeah. So I got to connect with Kyle in a lot of different ways. And it was, especially during that scene, definitely came in handy.
I love that so much. I didn't even think of the middle child thing. I'm the oldest, so I might have a little Ty syndrome going on.
Okay.
I'm the baby. I'm Katie, so I get spoiled.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh my God. I'm the only child, so I'm Annie.
Okay.
I'm the oldest, but I empathize.
You know what?
I'm the
That's
youngest.
That's why I really love this show. I really love this show because anybody can connect with any of these characters, and they do such a good job with that. And also, it appeals to so many different audiences. You can sit there with your grandparents, your parents, and yourself, and have all these different plot points, with the grandparents, with the adults, and the whole teenage, little relationship thing that's going on there. So that's what I really enjoy about this show because it can reach basically to anybody.
Yeah, it's extremely multi-generational, and we've really been enjoying that because, Bryant, I know you were saying you were even watching this with your mom. Did she get to watch episode 8 with you?
No, so I watched 7, 8, and 9 last night, but she was up to 5, and we were going back and forth about Dana Sue, which I'm sure we're gonna get to. But yeah, she saw this lens of Dana Sue and how Dana Sue has been struggling as a mother, and I saw Annie's side of the child. So like you said, Logan, it's just multi-generational. It's everybody can see it, and everyone can see these characters in different ways.
Absolutely. Whoops. There we go. Okay, yes. Well, speaking of being able to see characters in certain ways, I was certainly able to see Noreen in a certain way when, my gosh, okay, so not to make this about me, but I've dated a lot of men who have children. And so there's this thing I was able to relate because there's this scene where Noreen and Bill are sitting down, and this is after Bill has just showboated this whole car. He comes speeding in at the game, tosses Ty the keys, and this whole thing. And Noreen is simply asking for a car seat for the brand new baby that is coming along. And it's like, so you could spend $14,000 to $17,000 or whatever it is, but this little $350 seat is an issue. I was feeling some kind of way.
Me?
Kelsey, what were you thinking about that?
I mean, I'm right there with you. It's like, oh, okay, you know what? That's not cool. And I was so happy to see Noreen stand up for herself. I feel like maybe in the past couple episodes, she would have been like, oh, okay, or just kind of, gone to herself. But no, she was like, you know what? No, this is wrong. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to say something. And like I said earlier, I was here for her in this episode. She's saying nothing wrong. She is saying all the right things. And it's like, come on, Bill. Like, you're not always right. You don't always, like, what you say doesn't always go. Hear me out. And I need a car seat for my baby, for our baby. Like, that is my baby. Come on, Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I totally. The thing is like what you say is going back to. I think that as a young girl, we have to remember she's 20. She's in her early 20s, and she is coming into someone who has children that are, they're not babies anymore. And I think when she first enters the situation, she thinks it's almost like playing house. Okay, I'm going to walk in. I'm going to be a good mom, and I'm going to help out the kids. And she's not being realistic about it because she's young and naive. She doesn't know yet. And then when she's facing the feelings of other people and how they're dealing with this, she realizes that's not her place. You're not coming here to play house or be anybody's mother. You're just here to be another dimension of their life. And I think that when she starts realizing the whole, perfect scenario she was putting in her head is not realistic, I think that's when she starts saying, okay, I've got to figure out what is the reality of this situation. These are the things I need for my child. And she's starting to realize that with Bill, that's never going to be his priority. He feels as if he's done that. And he doesn't really see her in that way. The same way he doesn't see, Kyle. I think that's one of the things that she starts to realize very quickly. And she grows up a lot in a short amount of time because she has to.
Yeah.
And
Just go ahead, Tammy.
no, I was just going to say, I think too, the visit from Noreen's brother, from Garth, I think really, if there were cracks, like he really, the cracks started coming apart. And there was that, makes me so sad. There was that one scene where he says, "Are you happy?" And Noreen says, "I will be." And it's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's almost like she doesn't think she's allowed to be happy, and then he made her realize she is.
Yeah, it's always something when you see somebody who really knows you, you can't even lie to yourself anymore. And I think that was important. And I think that being her brother, he knew he needed to go and see for himself because he wasn't going to be at peace about it until he did. And it was a reminder for her that she can punish herself forever for mistakes she's made in the past, but she doesn't want to create that for her child. And I think that that's the difference, is she's really starting to see it from that point of view.
Yeah.
What's so interesting this episode too, you kind of spoke to it, Jamie, and just about the naivety. I don't know the word, but anyways, naivety of Noreen. And I feel like throughout the season, there hasn't been really like cracks. Like you said, she was painting this perfect picture that she thought she was. But what I think really showed her, really started to break things down, was the terrible decisions Bill was making throughout this episode. Like he made like 6 just like, what the F did he just do? Kind of moves. So Noreen was like, can I really find myself, having a life with him when he's making these terrible decisions right now before our child is even getting here? So I loved how everything kind of just came down at once, and Bill was just like making all these terrible decisions, and everybody in his life was like reeling from them.
And I think that the main thing was when she saw how he did not even see his own son, who was, that really hit home with her. Like, I don't know that I can be with somebody who this is, if he doesn't see him, how is he ever going to see me and our child? And I think that was just what made it really clear. And I do think she was mad for Kyle. I think she was like, by leaving, she was kind of standing up for him as well, and saying, like, it's okay to stand up for yourself and to say what you need. And if you're not getting that, you don't have to tolerate it.
I feel like Kyle helped. Oh, go ahead, Jamie.
No, you go ahead.
I feel like Kyle helped her see herself too. Like, yes, her brother coming in really shook it up, but Kyle throughout this whole show has helped her really find who she is and find her voice, and they've kind of helped one another.
100%.
I love the relationship.
I know.
They definitely helped each other in a lot of different ways. And every time, I felt like when Noreen was giving Kyle relationship advice, she was almost talking to herself in a way and helping herself through it. So, they definitely helped each other. And in the end, it's a beautiful relationship, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I love their relationship. And that's the thing is, even watching the show as a whole, you shoot your scenes and there's so many stories going on in this. You don't shoot with a lot of the people that are on the show. And so watching it as a whole, you even forget that Kyle is so neglected. You don't realize it until he says that to his dad. And I thought you did such a good job with that, Logan, because you really played it well to where, like, then that moment it hits you, it's like, oh my gosh, this poor baby. He's
Yeah.
been
I
so
really
fine
appreciate
that
it. Thank
everybody
you.
forgot to even check on him. You know, you never check on the good kid. And like, that was the
Mhm.
problem
Yeah.
there. And so I think
Yeah.
that was one of the things that I just thought was done so well, because watching it as a fan, I even was like, I've read the scripts and I did, like, you know, it just,
Mhm.
but when I saw
Yeah.
him on screen bring it to life, you see him hurting. And I think that was really cool to see the way you did that. It was really good.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yeah, that was definitely really, really fun, and I really enjoy, you know, Kyle's development over the entire series. I mean, you know, he goes from just, this kid that, he has little problems here and there, but doesn't really have anybody really to talk to. And then Noreen comes along and he helps, or she helps him out, and in this episode specifically, you really see a lot of that. And in the next couple episodes, you'll see that even more. So, it's definitely a really, really cool relationship. And the whole Kyle Noreen thing, I think it's something really special.
I did too.
And I noticed too, and particularly in episode 8, that Kyle knows his dad. Kyle knows Bill's going to be Bill. That's just, he is who he is. And I really appreciated the fact that Noreen didn't fall into that trap of, well, maybe he'll change, or
Yeah.
maybe I can
Right.
change him. Like you didn't. I don't know. Maybe Noreen felt that. Do you think Noreen ever felt that earlier on, and then just got to the point of no?
I think that Noreen kind of the whole time kept thinking, well, this is just a complicated time. So none of us are making the perfect decisions. And like, she just kind of thought it's messy right now. We're just trying to get through it. And then I think as things started to sort of normalize, not normalize, but started to kind of have enough time on them. And then she saw him do this to his child. I think that she was like, whoa, that's a whole nother level of, I cannot change someone who cannot see their own child. And I think that really was the big difference. And and a lot of times when people are dating, they don't have children yet, so they don't have the opportunity to see how someone would handle those situations. And she's
Great
getting a
point.
front row seat to it.
Mhm.
And I think that that's kind of what she was like, wow, this kid is how old and you're still not seeing him? And I think that was kind of her last straw with all of it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, you guys all spoke to all of that so beautifully. The bond that Noreen and Kyle had, and just how they kind of help each other through and mirror through. But, you're right, Logan. It was totally her giving herself advice. And I think the more she was able to get with Kyle and speak that out loud, it left her something resonating left in her brain, like, oh my gosh, okay, let's put that one on the board. Like, now I'm going to be looking at all these things. And I loved how you mentioned that Kyle didn't really have someone to talk to, but there's still this Kyle and Annie thing. And it's like, you guys are friends and you have a thing.
Yeah.
You are friends, but we know that every time we see, we're like, oh, poor Kyle. Oh my God.
I know, me
we
too.
we want you to have it. But I'll toss it to you, Bryant, real quick. What do you think about the Kyle and Annie relationship and dynamic before we hear from Logan?
It's funny you toss it to me because I'm actually the only one that's not here for it, because I'm the biggest Ty and Annie fan here.
I know you are.
Okay.
So, but I 1000% saw it since the very first episode. We talked to Carson about it. So I was like, just that little nuance that Kyle has of like Annie looking at Ty like, and then Kyle looking at Annie like that, So it's such this like, not even a love triangle. Who said it? We talked about like a love line. Like it's like this like train of like
Yes.
people into each other kind of thing, So I loved seeing that. I was actually torn though, as a big Ty and Annie fan. Like I was torn in this episode because I saw so much development between Kyle and Annie, and I was like, maybe there's something there as well. Apparently there wasn't, unfortunately, but
Yeah, how did you enjoy that dynamic, Logan? Because we did learn that this was Annalise's first role. I mean, you guys had still, regardless if it was a quote unquote like baby romantic thing, it was still very rich. And you guys have a rich friendship that we can all see. So how was it working on screen with Annalise? And what do you think about the relationship between Kyle and Annie?
Yeah, I listened to your guys' interview with Carson, and he pretty much said it perfectly.
Oh.
We were the youngest people there, so we bonded pretty quickly, really, really well, and I think the chemistry really shows on screen, and we became really, really close, and I really had a blast working with Anna. Even though she hasn't done a lot, she has a lot of talent, and I think she's definitely gonna go a long way without a doubt. And listen, wait, I can say spoilers up until this episode, right?
Yeah.
Yep, up till 8.
Yeah, okay, awesome. So listen, all right, really, really
So listen.
see it. You really, really see it. And one thing I really, really enjoy about the Kyle and Annie relationship is you really see it build up over time. Once again, the writers are incredible, and they did such a good job with this. And it really builds up until this episode, and something pretty big happens. And
You can talk about it.
I can. Okay. So, boy Kyle. So Kyle was like, you know what? It's time. Let's do it. Or actually, earlier in the episode, he tried to actually go for it, right? He tried to take his shot, and he was like, he tried to quote the guard or whatever. He tried to do a little fear thing.
Noreen said, "Did you say it in English?"
Yeah. Exactly. And Annie's like, okay, whatever. She didn't know what was going on. So Kyle's obviously, devastated by that whole thing. And then later that night, right after the whole play, he tries going for that kiss. And oh my gosh, it is so awkward. And listen, by the way, oh my God, Anna played that perfectly. Just so
it was so good.
That was amazing. But I love how that built up, and Kyle really started gaining some confidence. You know what I mean? And I really, really enjoy that. I think a lot of that is from the play. You know what I mean? And because he was so happy and everything. But I think you really see that relationship build up over time, and up until that big moment with the kiss. And there's still a lot to explore in the final 2 episodes, but that's definitely the peak, I think, of the whole Kyle and Anna relationship this season. So it was really, really fun. Like I said, overall, I really loved working with Anna. She was incredible, and can't wait for you guys to see the next 2.
And too, I love that conversation with Kyle and Noreen, and you can tell he's like, I'm just like going crazy about this, and you said to Noreen, or Kyle said to Noreen, what if she doesn't feel the same way? And Noreen said, she took a beat, and she said, then maybe it's time for you to move on.
That gives me chills.
Foreshadowing.
No, girl.
Yeah.
So I think that was, part of Kyle making that decision of, all right, you know what, I got to go for this because I got to know.
Yeah. Definitely. And that line too, that line delivery, Jamie, was amazing. By the way, that was incredible. No, seriously, that was amazing. And but yeah, that kind of goes back to the whole Kyle and Noreen thing. They really helped each other out in that situation. And Kyle kind of went for it. He just was like, all right, let's do it. He went right through it. But I think for Noreen, it was perfect. That conversation really helped her, really open her eyes. Like, okay, yeah, this is just something we gotta do. And I think it was definitely it was beautiful how that all kind of came together.
Yeah.
It was
that
so funny.
scene with
Literally,
him, and that was my favorite scene, I think, the whole time. That moment after you kiss her, you're gonna go.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go.
Whatever he said, I can't remember. Me and my husband laughed so hard. I was like, it was just perfect. It was so good.
I think Annie said, "Nice flower."
And something I can't remember.
Yeah, something to that effect.
I felt so uncomfortable.
She was like, "Thanks for the
watching it, I
flower."
don't even remember. It's like I was there.
Literally.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. And that's back to that. I mean, the cinematography too, by the way, is incredible. Like the director did such a good job. And they captured that moment perfectly. But yeah, she's like, "Oh, thanks for the flower," and there's like a long pause. I'm like, "See you later," or "Good night," whatever I say. Off. So it was amazing. It was really fun.
It was so good. It was so good.
Yeah, and Annie was probably like, "That's not the Townsend I wanted." Like,
yeah.
Oh, Bryant.
Oh my gosh. Oh
no,
I think
love
everyone
it.
can relate. It's
Yeah.
like we've all had those awkward high school experiences or now experiences where you're like, wait, you didn't like me? I don't like you. Might as well shoot my shot. I was proud of him for shooting a shot. I was like,
yeah, me too.
Do it because you never know if you don't try.
Yeah, he got his answer. He didn't waste any more time.
No. And what I love about that scene, it was so unexpected. You know what I mean? I mean, yeah, there were clues before them, but you don't expect Kyle to do that. You know, he's this like little, you know, nervous kid, kind of, he's very independent, right? Kind of keeps everything to himself. And the only time he really opens up is to Noreen. So we really don't get to see a lot of his, you know, true self and what he's going to do. So that whole scene was just insane. You were not expecting it. And I think it turned out really well. So it was just incredible. I loved it.
And I will say that for me, it was kind of a slow-mo effect in my brain, because as you started to go in for that kiss, I was like,
no. I actually think that's what Laura said, the director. I think that's what she said that day. She was like, I want this like slow motion feel. I'm really glad you brought that up, because I really think that's what she said. So, hey, I guess it worked.
There you go. You killed it.
Very beautifully done. What pros. And I definitely appreciate the boldness, because as we all like just love all of the men of Serenity, maybe not Bill so much, but we'll get to him. But all of the other men in Serenity, it seems like Kyle is following suit, just as cool, calm, and romantic as Cal, just as has just as much advice and kindness and friendship as Eric, and you know, just as much innocence, but still value as Isaac. So there's all of these men, and it just seems like Kyle's nicely following suit with all the other men in Serenity. So it's not bad. We don't know what's going to happen, but we hope his poor little heart can heal.
I know.
It's hard at that age.
And it is, but you know, it's something that you have to do. And yes, it's still hard. Obviously, it's still hard, because let's talk about Bill for a second. All right. Okay. So Bill. Bill.
You need the margaritas when you talk about Bill.
Correct.
So true.
Yes. And they even mentioned Bill and Margarita night. Like, now that we know what you don't want, let's talk about what you do. But
what did Helen say? Just really quick. Helen said, common sense ain't common. Bill focuses that. Common sense ain't common.
Yeah. Yeah, and you kind of really see that in the scene where Bill interacts with Kyle and with Maddie. You know, you really get that sense of Kyle looking at his dad like, yeah, you know, I'm in this play, it's this thing. And Bill's like, oh, okay, great. And he's like, no, but it's like me being varsity. It's like I'm the star player. He makes the correlation so he can be seen. So I love that. That was so, again, very powerful.
Yeah.
Right. No, yeah, definitely. And yeah, like you said, you know, poor Kyle just wants a good relationship with his dad. You know what I mean? And Bill just keeps on rejecting it. It's just, you know, another sad thing about Kyle. But, you know, he really, Kyle just wants to keep on trying. And even after, you know, he made that little correlation between the two, you know, you could tell Kyle was still, he was a little happier, sure, but, you know, you could tell Bill wasn't, you know, as insane as Kyle wanted. So, you know, Kyle, he tries and tries, and he just wants to make everybody as, you know, he wants people to like him. You know what I mean? He wants to just be the nicest kid. And I think you really can see that on screen. And I think especially in these next two episodes, you know, I think Kyle, he focuses on other people almost too much to where he doesn't focus on himself enough. I don't know if you guys really see that in the show, but I feel like he really needs to kind of take a step back and look at himself. And I think that's not what he really does. He just kind of focuses on other people and trying to make other people happy. And
sounds like he's a lot like his mom, Maddie.
Yes,
exactly.
Maddie, in that, I just loved how she came up with that, and she just was like, how in what world would you think that was okay for you to come into my garage, take my children's things to give it to your new love child's daughter, like it's like literally she was just so flabbergasted.
Give me my key back.
Let me get those keys.
That's crazy.
And she was like, run me those keys.
And then take my kid, who you're not even showing any affection towards, and make him help you to the point where he has to be so mature, where he's trying to put what he's passionate about in terms that you'll understand, and you still don't care. Oh yeah.
And to sum it all up, Bill thinks he's doing a good thing.
Yeah.
He likes that.
I want to get stuff for the new baby. Like,
I mean, just save some coin, like.
It is so delusional.
It's a headache. Bill's a headache.
And I love the way Maddie went off. And this is where I started to see where Bill does kind of not necessarily attract the same kind of woman, but Noreen has that same spice that Maddie had. Because Maddie was like, dude, you don't even ask. Like, you just take. Like, did you get what you wanted? She's very bold and confrontational. And I think that's, but out of pain because of the old love.
Yeah.
And I think we're starting to see that obviously in Noreen. First, it shows up as disappointment, then it shows up as packed bags. So let's talk about that moment where you guys, we see them at the play. And actually, I'm really excited because I'm thinking there's going to be this glorious moment where Kyle gets to look off into the audience and see his proud daddy. And we didn't even get past the door. So,
No.
So Kelsey, I want you to share maybe how you felt about this before we see with Jamie Lynn, but how did that scene make you feel? And what were your expectations, or what were you going through in your mind seeing that Bill wasn't even willing to stay for Kyle's play?
I kind of just wrote off Bill. I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. What I took from this scene was that Noreen asked for a new card and wrote her own name. And I was like, yes, girl, get it. Because you know what? He doesn't even deserve to have his name on the card. It's like, really? You're going to be on call? Seriously? It's like, you don't care. You don't show up for anybody but yourself. So I was not surprised that Bill left. I was not surprised he was on call. I wrote him off. I was here for Noreen, and I was proud of her and showing her support for Kyle. And like I said, I mean, their relationship is probably one of my favorites of this entire
Totally.
show. Mm-hmm.
So Jamie Lynn, was that like the official turning point? Like, bring us behind the scenes of Noreen's mindset, because I know we're seeing the relationship slowly chip away, but it almost seems like in that well, a little bit when Garth was here, the seed was being planted, but was it really that scene where she was just like, okay, no, I got to pack some bags and bounce?
I definitely think that was a big moment. I think this was kind of like her thinking, okay, he's going to go to this and Kyle's going to be so happy that his dad was there. So I think she was putting a little bit on that. Like, okay, she kept waiting for Bill to step up. And I think that as opposed to just at least stepping up and maybe, I mean, this was going to happen again at some point, but this would have maybe kept her there for another month or something,
Yeah.
But instead of even stepping up, he did the complete opposite. And he completely walked out and didn't even acknowledge, like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe I have to do it. There was no compassion in there. He didn't even see it. So I think for her, she was just like, okay, you know what, if I was asking for a sign, this is the sign. And, lucky I'm seeing it now as opposed to after our baby is born. And then I think what else is, people probably looked at her like, why is she here by herself? She's the other woman. Why is she at his kid's place? But I think that she had made a promise to Kyle and she didn't care what anyone else thought or how it looked. She was going to show up for him. She knew she had to leave after, and she'd had her mind made up, I think, once he didn't do what she thought he should do. And I think that she said, you know what, I'm going to be here for this little boy. He's been good to me and I want to be good to him and make sure he knows he is seen. So she stayed for that. And I think that that was important because I'm sure from the outside, it just looked like, what is she doing here? Sitting front row, watching him, and Bill's not here. Well, actually, she's doing the right thing. Bill left and didn't show up. She stayed, even though it was probably really uncomfortable for her because she knew that this young boy was starting to struggle and he needed to be seen by somebody, even if it was his father's mistress,
Yeah.
Well, I think he saw that she was the only one who really saw him,
Yeah.
It's like, so I think he would have, like, he was obviously hurt looking out and not seeing his dad, but if he were to look out and see Noreen, it's like that would make his heart happy. He knew that she was there for him through and through. And I thought that was really special.
Yeah, it's funny. I think we talked to Chris Klein, or I don't know if it was somebody else who mentioned it, but they were talking about like this redeeming quality of Bill, and I'm like, honey, we're at episode 8. Where's the redemption? Because like, he has not been redeemed. I don't see any redemption. So
yeah, I think he did a really good job with that. Like even when I would be doing the scenes with him, I'd be like, this character is becoming really unlikable. I mean, Chris, I like you, but like this character is becoming unlikable. He really is. Where is he going to redeem himself? And I think that speaks to a lot of maybe people out there who they're so unaware of how their actions are affecting other people. And I think that that's why, not only does he do things that hurt others, that's one thing to do something and be like, oh my goodness, I've hurt someone. And feel that, to feel that regret and that guilt. He is so unaware that he's even hurting people. He just thinks he's doing the right thing in that moment that he can't even have compassion for him. And that's where I think it's hard to redeem yourself whenever you make mistakes, but you're so self-involved, you don't even see that you're doing it.
Mhm.
A
Yeah,
question,
oh yeah, go
to
for
the
it.
panel. So, were you surprised by Noreen packing the bags and leaving?
I was.
I was as well, just in this episode, because I didn't think that such a
Yeah.
big moment was gonna happen like right there and then, you know?
Yeah.
So it was
It kind of broke my
huge.
heart. It broke my
Mhm.
heart for Noreen and Kyle. It didn't break my heart because Noreen and Bill. I was like, oh, they
Well,
need
just
each
wait.
other.
Your heart's really gonna break for Noreen
Ah!
and
And
especially
Lynn.
Kyle.
Oh my
In the
gosh.
last 2 episodes, your heart is just broken for Kyle, and it also shows you the weight of the relationship, that, Kyle and Noreen had, but also you really see like, and I think it's important, for parents to see this, young kids to see this. You see what a young kid is struggling. Sometimes they don't have the words to use or to know who to talk to, and then it spirals into what you'll see happen, in the ending episodes of the show. And I think it was really, even me as watching it, I was like, wow, you really need to stay in tune with your children and check on them, even if they're doing good or you think they're doing good, because they're really hurting. And I think that this show will hopefully open up a lot of parents' eyes and a lot of children's eyes to like speak when you're hurting, so that way you're not alone and you don't get to the point where you feel like no one sees you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There are a
That's
lot
such a
of
good
life
point.
lessons in this show, without a doubt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely going to be good.
Yes, I would absolutely agree. And, I guess to be honest, I thought she was going to just leave and take a break and come back, but she had a whole backpack. So, boop,
Mhm.
there you have it. Um,
Cradle.
Now, Jamie Lynn,
Mhm.
I love how you bring up the need for children to be seen. And Logan, you made a good point. There are a lot of life lessons. I want to pivot a little bit and talk about Dana, Sue, and Annie, because as Bryant, you said, you and I are on the same page, Bryant. I'm looking at Annie like, oh my God, poor thing, Dana Sue, let up. But
Yeah.
you do. I think Dana is also finding a way to connect with Annie. And what was a relief for me, it's finally starting to see that happen, because it's a power versus force thing. Force is when it's like, I'm taking your phone, I'm doing this, you're not going to do that, well, I need you to, we're having breakfast, blah blah blah. But then there was a shift in things, and there was a shift in Dana Sue, and there was more open space for Annie, and it became more powerful. And then now they're having a conversation, and I feel like a lot of ground was broken. It was like, I think their second forced breakfast
Yeah.
or invitation to breakfast. So I guess, Tammy, I'll throw it to you. What did you think about the evolution of Dana Sue and Annie, and kind of the softening of their relationship?
I loved it. I mean, you always know from the get-go how much Dana Sue loves Annie and how much Annie loves her. That's never a question. And so when you see them just missing each other communication wise, like to your point, Jamie Lynn, of being able to communicate and having the tools to communicate, um, Dana Sue is missing a lot of those moments. Like, she didn't know what was going on with her daughter because she just kind of assumed everything was fine. And so when things fell apart, it was really hard to watch. But I loved that was beautiful. I loved the pancakes, and I was hungry watching the scene. And
I have
it
a
was great.
preteen daughter. I have an 11-year-old. So this relationship, I connect like, even with I know that she's a teenager, but I'm like, totally, I see both sides. But it's refreshing as me, who's on this show, who's read these scripts, to see it like this, because it gets me thinking in my head. Don't get me wrong, I do think that, I think that in the beginning, Dana Sue is so stressed out with so many things that she can't even see past, her own child who's, stressed or wanting connection or whatever it is. And I've been that way before. I've been so like stressed out that I'm just like, okay, like everyone's in bed, everyone's happy. You don't realize that, oh, and maybe I need to check in on how, this one's feeling or that one's feeling. And I think for me, um, at least they're having communication, whether it's fighting or
Right.
whether it's good, at least they're having it. And that's what I think is important, because you're gonna look, moms and daughters are gonna fight. That's just gonna happen because you're trying to prevent them from making any mistakes you've ever made. And you're trying to figure out what gets through to them in a way that is, that is healthy. And I think that for me, it's like, yes, I do, my daughter doesn't have a cell phone or anything like that, but I do think that as teenagers, if you have to ground them in a way. You do have to show them and remind them that, they've done something wrong. But if you have that open communication, I think that that's great. And two, I guess because I have a teenage daughter, you know, my daughter I don't have a teenage daughter yet, but I feel like I do. When she talks back to me, you're just like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe that this little baby girl who was just the most sweet little thing in the whole entire world 10 minutes ago is talking back to me. And so this person is growing up and they're changing. So but you as their mother, you have to understand that and have a little bit, you know, of compassion there. A lot of times I just try to like not pay too much attention to some of the things because it is just a moody little girl, you know? And then other times it's time to step in and have a conversation about like, if that's not the kind of person you want to be, and that's not how you want to speak to people. But I get it. I've been there. I did it. You know, I think that overall that relationship is really well done. And at least they're having communication. If you're mad, tell her you're mad. If you're happy, tell her you're happy. And I think I'd rather my kids argue with me than not speak to me. And I think that was one thing with Kyle is everyone just assumed he was okay. He wasn't really having a dialogue about it. And I think that at least Dana knows where her daughter stands. She might not know exactly what it is all the time, but she knows something. She's always kind of got this intuition about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I was going to say my mom always growing up would say it takes two to tango. So it wasn't always me and it wasn't always her, but we had to communicate somehow about it. And I just think, Jamie Lynn, what you said, like, that's so beautiful. It's perfect. It's well said. And Dana Sue does see her. She just doesn't really know how to go about it. But then Annie also doesn't know how to go about it with her mom. So
yeah, I think as parents, we can't just assume that we're always right. Now, don't get me wrong. I will tell my daughter sometimes I'm the adult and like, you just have to respect that, you know, like you have to have respect for your elders. That's just all there is to it. But I also can go to her and like, baby, you know what? I'm sorry I got so angry with you about that. It was because I was stressed out. Your sister was tired. And, you know, I go to her and I'm like, and I'm sorry about that. You know, I shouldn't have snapped at you or whatever it is. Because I think it's important for her to know that I make mistakes and you're allowed to make them as well, as long as you can come to me afterwards. And I think that that's what they did so good in this show is it shows that, you know.
Totally.
It absolutely does. Gosh, this is such a conversation. It's such a full conversation full of life lessons. And Logan, you brought that up. Like this show brings out a lot of life lessons. Is there something that you learned personally from being on this set that has helped you evolve in real life?
You know, I think a lot of it really comes from the script. And like you guys were talking about communication and how, you know, serious that is and how important it is. You know, I mean, obviously I'm a teenager, so I'm going through all that right now. So it, you know, it definitely is good for me, you know, to, you know, I have a great relationship with my parents, obviously, but it's definitely going to strengthen it. You know what I mean? Thinking about this, you know, and they've watched, you know, the show with me. So, you know, I think we all learned a lot of stuff about communication and how to handle certain things. And I think it's definitely helped our relationship a lot. And I'm just really grateful for that. I mean, it's been incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's wonderful. In talking to everybody on the cast, it does seem like with all of the life lessons being such a through line to real life, everybody's learning and growing and learning how to take some of Serenity and implement it in their own lives. So I love that. Let's have some fun really quick. We have Cal and Maddie and Ryan and Helen. Okay. So now I'll toss this to you, Brian, because I know you are constantly torn. Chef Eric or Ryan, what is Helen gonna do? But how did you feel about the way Ryan showed up in this episode?
This was my deciding factor to be on Team Ryan.
Oh my God.
Literally,
man.
He called, when they were talking and, you know, all that stuff, and then he was just like, right there in her doorstep. Like especially even going back to what you said, Logan, about the cinematography. When you just see a person in the garage as she's pulling in, and we're like, oh, what the hell? And then he shows up. I was like, oh my God! Like it was amazing to see, and that was just my deciding. That's all I'm gonna say. That was my deciding factor to be on Team Ryan. I love that so much for Helen, and I love just how he's bringing. Like she already has so much light and so much strength and so much of everything. She's like amazing, but he just like adds to it tenfold, which I love about her, and that's why I'm so much on Team Ryan. But Jamie Lynn's giving it a look. I don't know.
I don't want to rain on your parade, but it's not over.
Oh my
That's
god.
interesting. That's interesting
that-
that you say that, because as much as that move from Ryan in this episode was amazing, I will give him that. But I can't help but feel he's going to hurt her.
I feel the
felt
same
it.
way.
I felt
Yeah.
it
I feel
from
the
the
same
moment
way.
he stormed
Totally
in the
agree.
house.
I just feel like they have a history, and he's had how many years and chances to get this right? There's a reason why there are so many years and it's not working.
Yep. Yep.
You
Exactly.
nailed it. You nailed
And
it.
I just like, and I guess I'm just a big person of like, fool me once, that's all you get. So
Yep.
Amen.
And
I think
So
I
I
have a
guess for
bad
me-
rap for calling relationships here. I call Ty and Annie, and I call Ryan and Helen. So maybe maybe I'm like
Yeah, Brian.
2-0, 0-2.
I don't know. I'm still wondering about Annie and Ty. Like, I feel like their story is unwritten still. So I feel like there's.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Without a doubt. Without a
I'm
doubt.
really interested to see where that goes. Like, I really am. So I'm with you on that one. But I just love Eric. I just love him so much. And he's not asking for anything. He has worked on himself, and he's obviously been through something. And I just love him. So I just want. I feel like he would be there just to like add to her life, as opposed to this back and forth she's got going on with Ryan.
Sure.
I agree.
I mean, Jamie Lynn, I'm right there with you, because you got to. This show makes you think about your real life, and I'm with you. I'm like, dude, 14 years. Like, so what was you doing that whole time? And you couldn't make up your mind. But now you just want to come back in, start a fight with me, and now we're just back. Like, you suspect, bruh. Like, I don't know.
14
Because that
years
just
is a
doesn't-
long time.
That is a
That's a lot.
time.
long time.
That's a long
For you
time.
to now realize that you're still in love with me and come back, like, I'm doing
And I mean,
just
I'm pretty
fine.
sure he's done this several times, it feels like. It doesn't feel like this is the first time he's come into town, played house for a little bit, and then,
That's very true. Because I think it's what I'm kind of not. I guess blinded is the wrong word to use, but that's kind of what I'm so enamored by. Is just the fact that after all this time, he just like pops back in and just like brings this like new energy. But I can definitely see what you're talking about how he probably has done this and hurt her again and burned her several times, which is probably why she's kind of like on the fence.
I think they both really want it to work, but I just think that like realistically their lives and jobs have always come and gotten in the way. And I think for me, it just feels like, it just feels like, I just feel like she, I don't know. I just feel like Helen could do, I don't know.
You're
Like
about to
they
say
hit
better.
this
I
road.
love that.
You say better. Yep. It's like they hit this roadblock, and it's like, how are you? They've obviously done it numerous times. It's like, what's it going to take to get past that? You would have gotten past that the past couple times if you were going to get past it. So I agree.
I just think he wants to. I think he wants it all. He wants to be with her, but he also wants to live the life he lives. Which I don't think he's a bad guy. I just don't think that their lives align. That's what I think.
And we want the best for Helen because we love
Helen. She is like
such a queen.
Light. So I just think that like she just needs somebody who is just going to stand by that light and get a tan, and that is it.
Yes,
exactly.
Girl.
And that
Well
Eric
said.
and Helen relationship, you really can't beat it. I mean, it's too good. I mean, all those scenes in Dana Sue's restaurant, you can't beat it. You could tell there's a special
He's
connection
just like
there,
the best.
and that's what I think. Yeah, 100%. And he makes her happy. I mean, you know what I mean? And like you said, I feel like Ryan has done this plenty of times. I think Jamie pointed out a really good point there. So because of all that, I'm on Eric's side for that one.
And we want Eric to bake for us. I asked him. I said, can you bake for us?
I know, right? It's like I feel like he's gonna have to learn to bake now. Like I'm going to like all the food they talk about on there. I've got to find someone who can like cook me everything that cinnamon ice cream.
Oh
Yes.
yeah. Oh my
We
god.
need
got
we
me
need a
too.
Serenity cookbook.
And it's good when it comes in the white, no label.
The plain no label.
Like that's the good stuff.
The special stuff.
Gosh.
Bucks a pint.
Absolutely. Now, before we get out of here, we did have a little bit more fun with Cal and Maddie. It's okay.
Come on,
So,
Tammy. Come on, Tammy.
Kyle, plug your ears,
Tammy's
Kyle.
so excited.
So Tammy, what did you think about just, really quickly about, I guess they're finally doing the deed.
Well, it's so funny. We had Anthony, the writer, on the on for episode 7, and in the writers' room, Cal is that man who doesn't really exist in the real world, and it was perfect. It was perfect.
You're like, that would never happen.
Yeah, my mom was like, "Do these people exist?" And I was like, I mean, I just think that basically, like, I think that we don't know his full story yet. I don't feel like. So I feel like
Oh, no, not at all.
with that, I think that will bring more, when we get to see more of his flaws. My mom put on house phone. Isn't that crazy? But when we get to see more of his flaws, I believe that it will bring that more human side to him, to where we're like, okay, yeah, he knows how to make the right decisions, because I think he's trying so hard to be a good guy, and I think he is a good guy. But I think that, like, once we're able to see some more of, like, the grit to him, I think that we'll be able to accept that, yes, good men are out there, and they they have their flaws, but they are out there. And I think that I'm so for them. I think that I love them as a couple. I really do. And I think she deserves that after how many years with Bill?
Ooh, anybody would
many.
deserve that after Bill. Well,
Yes.
I really want to thank you guys so much for this very rich conversation. Like, you guys are amazing guests, amazing actors, and we're really happy for you and just honor everything that you guys did as a whole to bring this to life to us. So we want to say thank you for sure for all of that.
Thank y'all.
Thank you
Yes,
so much.
absolutely. I feel like I could talk to you for another 30 minutes, but time will not allow. So, Logan, why don't we tell everybody where they can find you on social media so we can support you and continue to watch your journey?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. It's Logan Allen. Like, it's, is that actually in the username. So yeah, follow me there.
Perfect. And what about you, Jamie Lynn?
It's just my name on every social platform that it's just Jamie Lynn Spears. And you can find me, for updates about Sweet Magnolias and my kids, pretty much all I do. So
And Jamie Lynn, keep acting. We missed you.
Oh, I know. I'm so happy to be back. And this was like just such the perfect role. And by the way, Logan, I just love your character, and I love the whole way it all came to life. You did so good. And hopefully we'll get to see each other soon and tell some more fun Noreen and Kyle stories.
For sure. Definitely. And by the way, like, I love Noreen. Like, once again, you wouldn't think, like someone like Noreen, but seriously, you played her perfectly. And like you said, hopefully I'll be able to see you soon.
Yes, yes.
Absolutely. Oh, you amazing souls. Well, I'm sure you at home got so much value from this. And thank you guys for tuning in. Please continue to support Sweet Magnolias. Follow them on Instagram. Join the conversation below. Hop in the comments and we can have some fun talking these life lessons and what you enjoyed about the show. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Jamie Alexander. And you can find me on Instagram at Jamie Alexander. And that's Jaimi. And of course, our lovely panel. So on Twitter, you can find Tammy Govea, TamiGoveia. And on Instagram and Twitter, you can find Kelsey at KelsMeyer 2. And on all of the things, you can find the Bryant Santos at the Bryant Santos. And continue watching the after show. See you later.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Go on.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.